Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Zach Congonis. We are here to bring you the best solutions to your lifting problems. Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
Welcome.
Hi.
This is the first of many podcasts.
Yep.
Fun podcast with JD and I. Do you refer to yourself as JD?
Well, I've had people refer to me as JD, but I don't refer to myself as JD.
I call you JD all the time.
That's okay.
One, because it's like Jordan, and then there's like Jordan DiStefano. I don't know why. I don't know how it's come to fruition, but I call you JD all the time. So, yes, this is the first of many podcasts between Jordan and myself. We are going to be discussing, we may get Kirby in here as well, throw some other people in.
Love that.
Get some other athletes or whatever down the track, just to talk over our nutrition strategies, different conversations within the Nexus Unloaded podcast. So it's still the Nexus Unloaded podcast, but we fuck the boys off.
We've branched out a little bit.
And the girls come in.
Yeah.
And we take the reins.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are maybe new to the Nexus Unloaded podcast, obviously you've probably heard myself chime in the background of the boys' conversations. My name is Mikki. I'm one of the co-founders here at Nexus and one of the nutrition coaches. And then JD.
I'm Jordan.
My name's Jordan.
How do I introduce myself? This is like in work meetings when you go around the room and you have to say something about yourself and you die inside and you're like, what do I do again? Well, I am also a nutrition coach at Nexus. And I've been here for like maybe 2 years in October, which is crazy.
2 years.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Party. Speaking of parties, I'm actually organising Jordan's birthday party. So for those of you that want an invite, she has no idea what's going on.
I'm scared.
I've completely organised this thing for her. So for those of you who want an invite, just let me know. I'm just randomly inviting people.
Invited, whatever.
But give us a bit of a recap. What else is going on in your life at the moment, Jordan?
Well,
we have some notes here as well.
Oh,
the boys
my
give
notes.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, I have hip hop dance class tonight. I started last week. I've been trying to work on my cardio, and like the assault bike's getting kind of boring. So I was like, what's something fun? How can I make cardio fun? So got
hip hop
that
dance.
Yeah.
And you also love a dance.
I do. So we got a new TV and it has Vivo, and I started dancing in the lounge room, like putting on concerts. And I was like, I need to like take this to the studio.
Actually learn how to dance?
Yes.
I could just imagine being in your apartment complex. Like I love whenever, because obviously like my property is a freestanding property and I don't like spy on my neighbors or anything like that. But I feel like if I lived in an apartment complex, it's one of my favorite things when I do travel to cities. I just like look through the window and like be like, are these people having sex?
Obviously, I am the naked neighbor. So I feel like everyone's probably just seen me naked or dancing. Pretty much.
Tits out for the boys. I love that. Some wet t-shirt competitions in Jordan's living room. Cool. So hip hop dance.
Yep. So other than
why
that,
hip hop though?
Because like I don't think I'm into like a lot of people do like heels and stuff like that, which is interesting. But I feel like hip hop's more like my style. Like I'm not. I don't know.
And gangster.
It's kind of gangster, and it's different to the music I would usually listen to. So it's kind of like
because you listen to like full on death metal stuff.
Everything. So
don't say everything. You listen to like emo death metal stuff at 4:30 in the morning. We're next door to a church, and you're just like, "Fuck you!"
I play it loud on Sundays while they're coming in on purpose.
Oh God! Sorry, there's Jordan. She's little, but she's feisty.
That's me. But what about you? What's going on with you?
Well, obviously planning your birthday.
Yep.
But I have started doing some track training. So those that listen to the Nexus Unloaded know that I challenged Zachary to a 100-meter sprint.
Yep.
So I'm still yet to actually organize a time for Zach to get here and actually do the race off, the great race.
Yep.
But I'm actually really loving getting back into track training. Like I've been saying to Will lately, like it's something that kind of brings me back to my grassroots. Like before I was in the gym or anything like that, I was really into athletics. I was a really good track and field sprinter. So I did 100, 200, and 400 meters and then long jump and triple jump.
Oh God.
So it's kind of just brings me back to that. I love the training, the fact that I'm completely alone. Aside from like Sunday, Alex came along with me, which was kind of fun. It was nice just to not be talking about like, well, it's like whenever I come into the gym, like I'm just so easily distracted. There is so much going on, or people come up and ask me work-related questions when I'm halfway through my sessions, and like I love it here. Don't get me wrong, I love the people, but the training for me has started to become a little bit like monotonous.
Monotonous.
Boring. So the track stuff just really kind of breaks up my day. Obviously the Gold Coast is amazing, so the weather's just really nice to kind of just go out and run. I'm not a long distance, like don't get me to run 5Ks or 10Ks or whatever people do on their mega runs here. I'm just like get it over and done with really quick. So I've just been really enjoying that, and then just trying to find other little hobbies and things like that outside of work. So I discussed like some pottery, like maybe some clay molding shit where I can just like get messy with my hands. So that's kind of what's been going on. Nothing has been booked in yet for the clay molding stuff.
I'll make sure you do it.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll have to hit your friend up for some skills, because she's got the little like disco thing, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
Oh, well, I mean, she's been practicing for ages and she has her own fucking kiln. So, like...
Neck level. Don't expect me to see a kiln. Although we do have a really big open space underneath our house. I could make like a,
Well, it's settled. You're getting a kiln.
All right. So a couple of other things that we have going on here that I'm just going to quickly touch on. Today's topic is around phases of nutrition comp prep. And before we get too far into this conversation, we did discuss having some workshops and things like that out of the gym here on the Gold Coast.
Yes, we did.
We wanted to do something before this novice comp, but it was kind of
cutting it too fine.
Yeah, a little bit too rushed, and we like to deliver quality information. Though we kind of already know what we will be talking about, it's just making sure that it's super clear as the first in-person workshop that you've ever done.
Yeah, so I need time. I need time to stress about it.
So, that would be our plan. Probably July. I think we've set a date.
Yeah, July,
kind of
around before Deadlift for Dogs. So if anyone wants to like get the goss, the scoop beforehand, they can come along.
Jordan's sales.
I'm better in writing.
Just let me have time to sit down and put it out. If you want the inside goss, come along. Oh God. Okay. So yes, we will be looking at hosting a nutrition workshop in the lead up for Deadlift for Dogs. And maybe more to come after that as well. Because I feel like nutrition is not one thing. Like it's not we're just going to purely talk about the topic of today, which is phases of comp prep or phases of nutrition in comp prep. There's a lot of other things that kind of go into it, like people have questions around. So let's kind of go into this. I'm going to pull this thing over a little bit so it's easier to read. We have 12 weeks out is our starting point, because reality is 12 weeks out is when most people feel like
prep started.
Prep actually is like, oh, it's fucking 12.
I'm in comp prep.
Comp prep. When that's not the case.
No.
Not a whole lot really changes at 12 weeks out versus 16 weeks out when it comes to nutrition, but in people's minds.
It's like a switch is flicked and it's like, all right, prep.
Yeah, exactly. So a couple of the things that we've got here, we've mentioned like it feels like that's when it really kind of kicks off, but the reality is you should be doing a lot more work in the weeks beforehand. Sadly, we have people reaching out to us at 8, 10, 12 weeks out going, I need nutrition.
Help me.
Help me, mate, wait. And then they come to find that we actually have a little bit of a wait list, and
Yeah.
nutrition is in high demand. So if you are out there and you need help with your nutrition, do not contact us at 8 weeks out. Try and get ahead of the game, and not just working with us specifically, but anyone out there, because nutrition realistically is relationship building.
For sure. And there's so much, as we're going to go through now,
Yeah.
there's so much other things that you need to think about, and nutrition kind of like falls in line with like work, milestones, like everything. It's just faceted. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to best helping people through their struggles, we need to know what their lifestyle is. And that does take a little bit of time to build an idea of what their routines and structures and habits and things like that are, so that we can best create a system that's going to work for them.
Yeah.
So let's get back to this. We're 12 weeks out. First thing that we would encourage you to do is to book in a call with your coach.
Yes. Yes.
Make sure that they know the details of your comp, what the dates are.
Yeah.
Because obviously we work primarily with powerlifters, there are also people out there. I do have a couple of strongman athletes that the events are largely different, and that can impact what we're doing for their nutrition on the day or in the lead up to that, when their weigh-in times are, all that sort of stuff. Like, as much information as we possibly can
extract
around the comp.
Yep. So also looking at are you traveling, accommodation? Have you considered your weight class?
Yeah.
What's your life look like?
Yeah.
That's 12 weeks. That's 3 months. Do you have...
There's a lot of shit that can go down.
Work projects, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. And if it is an event that you have to travel for, then even asking things like, have you considered when you're traveling, taking the time off work, all that sort of stuff? Because, again, if you have to do a weight cut, you've mentioned making the decisions around your weight class. Let's say you have decided that you may need to do a weight cut, then your travel plans and all that sort of stuff is definitely going to have an influence on some of the decisions that we make over the course of that prep too.
Definitely. And it also helps set expectations. So say if you're like, yes, I'm going to need to cut weight, and then you're also like, oh yeah, work's got this really stressful project coming up, and then I've got my best mate's wedding, and it's like, well, okay, well, do you expect your training to be amazing? If we're doing all these things in the lead up. So,
well, one of the conversations that I recently remember having was with a young lady over from America that had an event, her first wedding anniversary, where she was traveling, and then she was spending 2 weeks over in her homeland country with her family, and that was all within the space. So there was 3 to 4 weeks where she was going to be internationally traveling, which is going to have large repercussions on the outcome of that prep. She also wanted to lose. She was a very little person, much like yourself, that wanted to lose close to 10%, if not more, of her body weight over the course of that prep.
Shit.
So my conversations were, well, is this realistic? What are your expectations of this event? Do you want to go in there? Do you want a PB? Do you want to qualify for nationals? All this sort of stuff. And potentially have a rigid, restrictive time for your first anniversary, and whilst you're traveling internationally and having holidays with your families. What is more important to you? Getting really clear on that and finding out, is this even the right event for you? Is this competition actually something that matters? So that's just an example of why it's important to have that phone call with your coach, and then have some conversations around what we've got going on.
For sure.
One of the other points that we have here is discussing some low-hanging fruits, so that they're addressed now, not right before comp. So what would you say some of the low-hanging fruits that you would encourage people to look at?
So say, for instance, if someone's like, yeah, look, my sleep's shit, I'd be like, all right, well, why don't we focus on routines, maybe afternoon or morning routines now, so that by the time shit gets a bit more intense, we're already built that solid foundation and routine to kind of fall back to. We're not kind of starting from scratch. So that could be one big one.
Probably one of the biggest, I would say.
Yeah, I picked the lowest of the lowest hanging fruits to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. If you have shit sleep, because the sleep is one of those things that does sadly can deteriorate a little bit over the course of someone's prep.
100%. Yeah.
So making sure that you at least have a fallback safety net
Yeah.
routine beforehand is
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah. So you're not starting from the bottom.
Yeah.
Another one could be, I don't know, someone's like, yeah, look, I'm not eating my vegetables or whatever. I'm like, all right, well, why don't we start looking into that now?
Yeah.
So that we're not 6 weeks out and trying to like
improve food quality because your guts are fucked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So those are just a couple of things. But I mean, most people now, if you were to say to me, like if I were to have a conversation with someone and be like, what are a couple of things right now that you feel like you can improve on that's going to have the biggest carryover to your performance and your recovery? If you answer those couple, okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
So those are conversations that I have all the time with people. We've mentioned where your weight is currently sitting.
Yep.
So just know where you're at, where you are within your weight classes. Do you need to potentially cut weight? Are you happy just being where you are? Do you want to go up a weight class? Just having a bit of an indication as to what's going on. And don't make that decision based on the competition.
Yes. So not using, I don't know, people that you've competed against in the past to influence that, and really thinking about your next 3 months, what's going to be best for you, what are your values, and then basing your decision on that.
And looking at like, okay, is this a competition that is maybe a nationals qualifier event?
Yeah.
Is this weight class where I want to be competing in another 6 months time after that?
Yeah.
Because if you've qualified for say the under 75 female weight class, and that's it, like, but you've had to do a really aggressive cut to get there, and then nationals is 3 to 6 months after that, and you
like,
have to stay back to this.
It's like down the barrel of like
the whole your next 9 months is essentially built out with you not being able to get bigger or jacked or anything like that because you've qualified in a weight class that no longer serves you.
Yeah.
So just thinking about those sorts of things. We've got set realistic expectations as to what's to come. So maybe some sacrifices and things like that.
Definitely.
The fatigue, just talking about some of the feelings if this is someone's first ever meet, what they can kind of expect out of that prep.
Yeah.
And a few other things here is like the accommodation, the travel, the weigh-ins, and all of this stuff is actually available. We do have a free ebook on our website, which is the complete competition guide. So jump on the website and download that for free. It's essentially a bit of a roadmap for those that may be new to events or competing, or those that are experienced and just want a bit of a, reference chat if you're a coach talking over things with clients, to make sure that they're doing some of these things over different phases of their prep. Because we're speaking purely nutritionally here.
But that covers stuff like equipment, like, lots of useful stuff.
Exactly. All right. So between like 12 weeks out and 8 weeks out, not a whole lot really changes on the nutrition front.
Nah. It's just plug and play, be consistent.
Follow through with some of those like
things
low-hanging fruit things that we've chatted, whatever. Make sure you're all set up. 8 weeks out.
You have to say this line.
8 weeks out, peak really starts to kick in here. And I've said, we have this crossroads of like intensity, things are starting to get pretty fucking heavy.
Yep.
And I'm getting there, Jordan. I'm getting there. It starts to get really heavy, and the volume is still there. So this is where it really starts to fuck you in the ass.
She said it.
Yeah.
This
is the point where
you're
prep,
like,
you're just like, like, is
like,
that the noise that you make?
You're like, I got 8 more weeks of this? Fuck, can I actually do this?
Yeah, it fucks you in the ass pretty hard. So this is what we're saying. We're at that shitty crossover point between volume, intensity, and fatigue starting to really creep up. And alongside that, a couple little mindset games and things you could be playing, which is why we've got here. We want to make sure we're eating as close to maintenance as possible around this point.
Yeah.
And we've left a note here. Ideally, like no later than 4 weeks out, you're at maintenance. You could kind of be in a low deficit.
You could, but it's not preferred.
Yeah.
But you could.
Yeah. You can survive your way through it. But as I said, because fatigue is really starting to peak at this point, we we do want to make sure that we've got an adequate amount of calories coming in to support your recovery, and at least help you feel a little bit better. Sometimes there are things like you could be eating in a surplus and still feel fucked physically. Like more food doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be super recovered and feel like amazing the whole way through. That's definitely not the case. This is where things really start to get heavy, and it's important that we are prioritizing that a little bit. So other things we've mentioned here is your sessions are starting to get a lot more longer. And with that, time eats into some things. So we've got a few different things here on what, as a consequence of those sessions getting longer, what starts to happen.
So if you train in the morning, you might be eating into your sleep. So waking up earlier to be able to get your sessions in on time, you're probably, pushing your sessions out a bit longer due to like more, I don't know, the volume's still there and the intensity's still there, but shit just takes ages to like work up to.
If you're someone that's, got to use knee wraps, or if you're having to do a lot more warm-up sets to get to your top end sets, all that sort of stuff just takes a little bit more time.
So that's how maybe that could eat into sleep. Otherwise, if you're training in the afternoon, maybe your sessions are taking longer, you're loading up on more caffeine in the afternoon, and then that can also impact your sleep. You might be getting home from training later, so less time to cook. So maybe you're not prepping food, or maybe you're just going convenience, which is okay, but with convenience, we might be missing out on our macros. Maybe you're sacrificing some time with your friends and family because you're
so your social cup's not as filled.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, I don't know, someone's work could suffer because they're putting a lot of time and energy into training, and you're mentally like fatigued. So that's where I think you see those kinds of things. Something start
to come through as a consequence of these sessions potentially being a little bit longer. And I think the reality is that we just need to know that these are some of the sacrifices that we may need to make in order to get the desired outcome that we want from this competition. And if what do we kind of want from this event? Are we having high expectations on this, or is this something that you just kind of do for a bit of an experience? So get really clear on what your expectations are out of the meet, and then understand what sacrifices you're willing to make as a result of that.
And then also, if some of these things are beginning to slip, do we need to do like a little inventory check, or I don't know, look back and be like, okay, like, how can I improve this?
Go back on some of those low-hanging fruit things.
It's like a good reminder to go back at this point in time and see if anything's kind of slipped since.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, we've also got some of the supplements as well that we might just want a bit of a reminder, top up on. Is there anything that we need to stock up on to finish the prep? Or things that we might need for competition day, some sodium or some caffeine pills. Do we have enough pre-workout to get us through? For some of those PED guys out there, we do work with some people that do take drugs. Bad.
I just myself on the wrist. I don't know why I did that.
But yeah, so we do work with some people that do use performance enhancing drugs, and it is important just to make sure that you have enough to get you through prep, because there's nothing worse than running out of shit. Not that I would know that, but there's nothing worse than running out of things and feeling like shit for those last couple of weeks of prep. So just make sure that you are stocked up on everything that you do actually need.
Creatines.
And with that, your comp equipment as well.
Yes. So check your equipment. I mean, this is a nutrition chat, but still, this is important because I think you were saying, like, if you need like something new and replace, like you don't want to do that a week out.
And then not have your ends and knee sleeves rock up for 9 months.
Oh my God. So
triggered.
It's literally like when I get them, I'm doing like a birth photo shoot with them. I've decided. But as I was saying, you want to be able to, you want everything to be comfortable and familiar. So if you're changing equipment, getting a new belt, buying new sleeves, buying new wraps or whatever, like you want to at least do some sessions in them.
Yes. And the other thing, I guess one of the key points that I have around making sure that your equipment is approved for the comp.
Yes, that too.
It just takes the stress out of it.
Yes.
And in those last couple of weeks where stress is really starting to get high, it's one of those things that it's really nice to not just be freaking out about whether or not my equipment's going to get here on time.
Yes.
But yeah, so just making sure that you do have everything that you need so that you can do some sessions and you're not sitting there freaking out that your equipment hasn't arrived in time. Yeah, 9 months later. Cool. All right.
Nationals 2023.
Fuck, here's hoping. Oh gosh. Okay, so 8 weeks out, we then start to move into weeks 4 to 6.
Yeah.
There's a few things that are kind of going on around this point,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're really starting to move into 1RM singles territory, singles territory at least. And with that, we have the risk of failed lifts, bad sessions, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I feel like this is really common with my clients. Like they'll, give me an update and be like, oh, I failed this, blah, blah, blah. And you can really sense it, like it is really like dampened their week.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, like, what's one lift?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, out of how many? Like,
exactly. But you've been in their shoes, so you understand. I mean, I obviously haven't competed for a really long time, but I have competed.
Yes. Yep.
And so I know how shitty it feels to fail lifts. And so you can empathize
100%
with them.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why we've flagged this, don't get in your head about failed lifts or bad sessions, is because as a result of having some bad sessions, your mindset starts to go, well, fuck it.
Spirals.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So the stress, your decision-making process, like that starts to go down a little bit. You just start to make really silly decisions.
And then you question the whole comp itself.
You question the whole process that you start to go through, like, well, what's the point of eating so well if I'm failing my lifts? And what's the point of doing this? Or what's the point of sleeping? And what's the point of this? When realistically, improving all of those things, it gives you much more likelihood to do better in your next session.
Yeah.
Rather than letting things continue to slip through the cracks and then your next session is as a result of those
things that you
sorts of things.
Yeah.
So, don't get in your head about a couple of bad sessions or some failed lifts. As easy as, it's easier said than done.
So much easier said than done.
But just make sure that you're communicating with your coach. If this is a thing that you're feeling, you can hopefully work them through some different strategies to help overcome that stress and have them
come back
view
from
things in a logical sense rather than a emotional decision that we can make. All right. So 4 to 6 weeks out, we want to maybe trial some weight manipulations.
Yeah. So this is something that I think is quite handy, especially if someone hasn't done something before as well, like, or if they're a bit of a nervous Nelly, if there's someone who...
You?
Yes. I am a nervous Nelly.
Hello, Nelly.
I mean, as well as if I have someone who's maybe doing a 2-hour weigh-in and there's less room for like error, and they're also nervous Nellies, it could be a good idea to just trial it so they understand or they get an idea of how much weight we can manipulate with that certain strategy. So I'm thinking like low residue is one that I would typically show people because a lot of people are skeptical. They're like, what do you mean? Like I eat chocolate and
I lose weight.
Yeah. And it's like, but the food, the volume of the food is smaller.
Yes.
Like,
people don't understand that. Like, if you eat more chocolate, you get fat. It's like, well, no.
It's like, trust me on this.
Yes.
So that's where an instance where I'd be like, all right, let's just give it a go. So you know how to do it, how it feels like, because you're going to be hungrier. So that on comp week, it's one less thing to worry about.
Yeah. You still may be a little bit stressed, but at least if you've seen in past results what the outcome is with how much weight has been lost from something that maybe wasn't as intense as what you do on your comp week, then hopefully it just gives you a little bit more peace of mind that the weight cutting strategies that you have in place are going to work. One of the things that I have noted here, and I just said, is that you don't want that weight cut strategy to be as extreme as what you would do on comp week. So you can trial like some low residue approaches and just be like, hey, look, this is a couple of days where your volume is going to be quite low. These are some of the hunger things that you're going to be feeling, but just know that your total caloric intake remains the same. So your performance shouldn't necessarily dip as a result of that, but this is what you can expect to feel. Know that we can use other strategies alongside that. So we're just going to trial the low residue so you know what to expect from that. But on comp week, we're then going to add in some other things like some water manipulation or some sodium tracking or some fasting protocols or whatever that may sort of look like. Instead of doing the low residue, you might just do some fasting protocols and show people through, the expected time differences and how that can make a difference on their weight. So having a bit of a trial run is important. If needed, not always needed. And if you are going to do it, do not go to the intensity of what you would do in your comp week, because it could impact the extra heavy sessions that you have to do closer to.
And then you might fail a lift, and then you're getting your head.
Okay. Replicating comp day scenario. This is one thing that I don't actually see a lot of other coaches out there really put an emphasis on this, but I think it's fucking huge.
So important, because I feel like you wake up on the day and you're like, what do I do?
Oh my God. So we want to do the best we can to replicate the comp day.
Yeah.
Now, if you know that you're going to be lifting in a PM flight, because a lot of comps now are split like AM and PM sessions.
Like 1 PM lift off or something.
Or if you're lifting at 8 AM in the morning.
Love
and
that.
you may not no, thanks. And you may not be used to training and lifting 1 RMs at 8 AM in the morning.
Squatting at 8 AM.
Yeah. Those are things that you want to make sure that you've trialed. How much food should I be eating? How does my stomach handle this kind of food? When do I eat? Exactly. All those sorts of things you want to, not saying that you do squat, bench, and deadlift, all together, but at least start your squat session around the time that you're going to be competing on comp day, because you should have that information around 4 to 6 weeks out. You should know what sorts of foods, and if it's too much food, too little food, how you feel, all that sort of stuff. You can make tweaks in the couple of weeks before your event so that walking into the day exactly what to do. And it's, again, one less thing to be nervous, anxious, stressed out about, because you've just been doing it every week already. And I remember this is a conversation I had to have with you, because you were like, oh, I'm so fucked come deadlifts. I'm like, babe, because you're used to lifting at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I was going to say that's been a big one for me, like deadlifting later in the day when I feel like I'm a fucking more of a potato than normal.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm fried. It's 3 o'clock or 1 o'clock. I'm like, oh, it's nearly bedtime. I don't want a deadlift. And you're like, girl.
Yeah. Because you're used to training at 4 o'clock in the morning. Try and come in and deadlift some of your heavy sessions after your work days. So that you know what it is potentially going to feel like when you are a little bit more brain fried or physically fried. And is there certain things, caffeine timing and food timing and things like that you can do to make sure that you're at least feeling okay for deadlifts. And if you are feeling a little bit fucked, then you know how to handle that a little bit better as well. Like you're like, okay, I maybe need to lower my expectations a little bit or whatever.
Or up my no-dos.
Yeah. So with that, we can check our scales against calibrated scales.
Yeah. So this is a big one.
Tell me what you taught me in this. I don't even know why I didn't even think of this.
I taught Mikki to bring, so say if you don't have access to calibrated scales, for instance, not all gyms have like the big
if you live out rural and things like that, you don't have access to a lot of facilities.
Yeah. So what I do, or what I've done, is I tell my clients to bring their scales into the gym and put some calibrated plates on the scales. My brain works in a different way. I was like, this is obvious. You're like,
I'm
what?
sitting here, I'm like, why would you not just get them to step on calibrated scales? I'm like, because not everyone has access to
if you go back and look at like archived tapes, you can see me like coming in with my Kmart scales and loading them up with calibrated plates in the gym. Obviously, you don't want to just like drop the fucking plates on the scales and smash them.
Yeah. Be gentle.
Gently place them. So
I love that you're giving us a description as to how to put plates on scales.
Yes, I haven't finished yet. And because something I learnt with my scales is that they were like really like
if you
good.
Dump a 25 kilo plate on them, you're going to smash them.
No, I learned that once I got to past 30 kilos, they started going out by a couple of grams. So I literally placed, so at the time I was like 50 kilos. So I put like 50 kilos on
so big.
Yeah, big dog. I put 50 kilos on the scale and it was like 800 grams over. So I was like, okay, like, so now I know to like remove 800 grams like whenever
Okay, big dog.
You heard it here first.
Big JD. So around this time, we want to make sure we reduce eating out as well.
Yeah.
So this is going to help with a few things. One, weight consistency.
That's a big one.
Yeah. If we're having a lot of extra sodium or different timings of meals,
Eating
different
at like
types.
9 p.m.
Yeah.
And then,
going out, getting on the nose beers, whatever that sort of looks like for you. We just want to reduce. Is that all what something people do?
Sorry, I didn't expect that.
I actually thought, can I just sidetrack here for a second? I actually used to think that nose beers was people snorting beer up their nose. I didn't know what nose beers were.
Have you ever seen someone just like knocking on their nose?
I actually used to think that nose beers were. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, get on the nose beers. Like
Sorry.
People doing shoeies and stuff. I just thought it was like one of those fucking dumb
A
party
foot beer.
tricks that people did. I was like, it's just a cool party trick. Like people, sculling fucking nose beers, not realizing exactly what it was. For those out there that don't know what it is, Google. So yeah, we want to make sure that we are reducing some sodium fluctuations, causing any potential gut disruptions and
not getting food poisoning.
Nasty food poisoning. Will got food poisoning 1 week out from his comp because he had bad sushi and lost like 4 kilos in a week. He was just shat himself consistently.
Like not sure if weight manipulation strategy or nah.
Yeah. Well, he was trying to put weight on because he wanted to hit 400 kilos for the first time.
Oh, no.
Didn't get it, by the way. Food poisonings ain't no fun. So it wasn't like until that point that I was actually really like, motherfucker, do not eat out in the 1 to 2 weeks before. At least 1 to 2 weeks out for comp. Like, just don't eat out.
Well, I have a client she got food poisoning too.
Yeah.
Luckily, we weren't so close.
Yeah, Bianca.
Love you, girl. But she learned a lesson that week.
Do what I say. Cool. All right. So we've mentioned there like reducing eating out to help with weight consistency, but also just like meal timing will help with our weight consistency as well. So try and get your meal timing more consistent.
Similar
in the I probably wouldn't say it's 6 weeks out. I feel like that's a little bit too far, but like from 4 weeks out.
2 to 4 weeks out, you want consistency, especially if someone's weight is going up and down. And so if we're looking at, all right, reducing eating out, meal consistency, then we get a really good idea of what their average weight is. So that if we need to do a weight manipulation protocol, we're not like, oh, maybe we do or maybe we don't. No, we're fine.
Yeah, exactly. It just definitely removes a lot of that, the guessing game. The more we can monitor, the more we can manage.
I knew you were going to say that.
How'd you know?
Because you did a post on it the other day.
Fuck off.
What's measured is managed. Something like that.
Cool. So weigh-ins being a little bit later in the day. So this is coming back to kind of repeating comp day situations is
I've got a few clients.
I hate those fucking comps.
They're like, oh, my weigh-in's at 1. I'm like, oh, okay. So let's get you maybe manipulating your breakfast size or whatever, and then jumping on the scales at 1 and seeing, looking at your water intake, like
making some better weight class decisions as a result of that.
Yeah,
or just don't do the fucking comp.
Pull the plug. It's not worth it. I want my sushi.
No. Just that's the weight cut protocol. Have some bad sushi. Speaking of sabotaging your prep, social media, try and limit our exposures to that.
Yeah, stop looking at everyone else's like singles and comparing to them. I mean, if you've failed a lift, then you see your main competitor like absolutely nail theirs, and you're probably like, oh fuck, like
I fucking hate these conversations that I have to have with clients. Yeah. I have them, I mean, a little less frequent now because one, I don't work with as many people as you or as others, but in my years, having to essentially talk people off the edge, or just explain to them that they're being a little irrational, and that they're on different pathways. Like people might be hitting singles at 10 weeks out because they suck at executing singles, and so you're sitting there going, and as the singles may not be like heavy singles. I'm not saying they're testing 1RMs from 10 weeks out, but they're already executing singles because they need to practice the skill of that or using a mono or whatever that may sort of be. And you're sitting there going, oh, all these guys are already doing singles.
like,
I'm not doing singles.
Yet.
I'm not there yet. I'm not ready. And so as a result, you go out and you start making irrational decisions, or going back to like the failed lift sort of mentality where they start making silly decisions because they're like, well, fuck it. What's the point? If this person's already doing this, then, you know, why am I even bothering? Those sort of questions start to play in. And as a coach, I just think it's just important to note on reinforcing negative or bad behaviors is not going to help with any long-term sort of positive outcomes either. So if you catch people doing this, then don't, you know, like reinforce it. Don't tell them to keep using social media or whatever. But also don't tell them that they're being, like what I've said, irrational or emotional or silly. Just try and, you know, empathize with them and how they're feeling, and try and limit social media exposures. Maybe unfollow that person for a period of time.
And remember too, like, I'm just going to say this, everyone says this, like, it's highlights. That's their highlight. You know what I mean? They probably failed something, or maybe, you know, they're not going to share it.
Like, I know Willa doesn't share a lot of his failed lifts. I actually tell him to.
I share mine now because I'm like, it's so fucking common.
Fuck it. Like, even if you just post it on IG stories, like, it's gone in 24 hours and no one cares.
Sometimes it's like, oh, whatever. Like, this is the reality of lifting.
Fucking
you win some, you lose some.
Yeah,
it's my 100%. Life motto.
Is it really?
Yeah. I said it to Josh once and he's like, yeah, but like, do you ever win some? I'm like,
fuck you, Josh.
Sometimes.
Josh isn't welcome on this podcast with us. Okay, so we've gone through 12 weeks out. We've gone through 8 weeks out. We've gone through 4 to 6 weeks out. Now it's crunch time.
Yep.
1 to 2 weeks out.
1 to 2 weeks out.
We're not going to go too ham on this or the day before or the day of, because that's a whole other episode. Yeah. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
Future Mikki and Jordan chats.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned, peoples. All right. 1 to 2 weeks out. What do we want to be doing?
Oh, I would say make sure you're organized first. Double check everything.
Don't be a dickhead and not have socks ready like we did before Pro Raw this year.
Double check all your equipment, your clothes. Triple check it, actually, because you were supposed to check it earlier.
Yeah.
And then I would also say, like, weigh-in time, where the venue is, like, all the logistical stuff, like, just double check it.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Just know where you need to be, how long it takes for you to get there.
Yeah.
Make sure that you, like, we had to pick a client up on the way to Pro Raw because she was dropped off in the middle of nowhere at a fucking servo.
What?
Yeah. The taxi driver or Uber driver didn't know the address. It was the right address, but in a different suburb.
Oh my God.
So it was like the same street, same numbers.
Did she get out being like, yeah, Pro Raw might be in Caltex?
Yeah, she was at a Caltex. And
sorry.
like, obviously highly stressful and frustrating for her. She was also traveling internationally. So like,
God.
I totally feel and empathize in how stressful that was. And we were driving there and I was like to Will, I was like, we're going to pick her up.
Get it. Yeah.
Let's get this going. Like, where is she? We're going to go pick her up and we're just going to make sure that she's okay and she knows what's going on.
Yeah.
Because the location of the gym, most powerlifting gyms are, they're kind of like tucked away in like
industrial
areas. Like, you can't see our gym from a main road by any means.
No, the first time I came here, I was like, where am I going?
Well, the Townsville gym, just main road, like, you can't miss that motherfucker.
It's
but
different.
Yeah, here on the Gold Coast, we're tucked away a little bit, as most powerlifting gyms are. So it's kind of nice to get a bit of a lay of the land. Where are you in proximity? Is it, you know, an easy trek, and just feel really comfortable with how you need to be getting to the event. So know your weigh-in times, the lifting schedule, what else is in your area, groceries, that sort of stuff, and just be really familiar with where you need to be if you're traveling.
I've had clients who have come, they did a comp on the Gold Coast and never been before, and I was like, okay, well, this is where you're staying. This is the Woolies. Like, make sure you know how to get there. Like, there's a car park. I was literally full went mum mode.
Yeah.
I was like,
and I mean, like, okay, yeah, we do go mum mode a little bit, but it's only because for most athletes, they kind of have a little bit of a brain fart moment.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the check-in process that we do anyways.
Yes.
Like, it's because at that point, nutritionally, unless you're having to do a weight cut, there's not a whole lot more that we need to discuss and do, because one, we've done it. If we followed the process of what we've done over those last 12 weeks, you should be in a really good position if you know what you need to eat on the day, you know what you need to eat before the day, you know where you need to be, all that sort of stuff. So us just giving a little bit of a lay of the land is important. If we're familiar with the area, if not, just encourage them to fucking look into it because
I'm not a travel agent.
Yeah. You sure? You look like a travel agent with your little headset, sort of.
Yes.
Cool. So with that comp day, pack your food, pack your bag, all your equipment, know your electrolytes. So let's go into this a little bit.
Yeah, want to make sure we're getting all of these in through diet or, usually people would supplement with like magnesium.
The IUMs.
Sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium.
What is the accent with that?
I don't know why I did that. This is why you're not allowed to get me on a podcast.
This is why we need to do more podcasts.
This is me in general. Put a muzzle on me. We want to make sure we're getting all these in because, like, when we contract our muscle, like, this is what's involved in the process of, like, making them fire. So, obviously, we want to make sure we're eating them. You should be getting them in anyway.
Yeah.
But it's just something extra just to pay attention to in the lead up.
And if we are having to do some water manipulation, and let's just say we're drinking a large amount of water, that sort of stuff filters through a little bit faster as well, right? I've never heard of someone having a sodium deficiency by any means.
Yeah.
But hello, Will. Will's just walked in. But yes, it's definitely important to consider that.
Yeah.
Last couple of things we've got here to wrap up this potty because Will's about to kick us out. Morning and evening routines for weigh-ins.
Yep.
Know what we need to do in that regard. And I feel like that's kind of got to do with like the repeating comp day situation anyways, right?
Yeah, and I think also too we had that as in like if you need to eat, time your meals. So if you're weighing in at a certain time, you need a fasting window, like know when to.
Yes.
I think that's
I think that was for the fasting windows.
Yeah.
We're just sitting here like, what was that about again? So for potential weight cuts, know what your strategy is. So know, are we having to eat our food a little bit later in the day or a little bit earlier in the day? Like the fast. Sorry, I'm totally off track now with Will.
I think too, we're also talking about like
the fasting window. So having a 6 p.m. dinner meal instead of an 8 or 9 p.m. dinner meal.
Yep. So if you're weighing in at 9, maybe, and you need to kind of lose a couple of grams, if you eat your dinner maybe really early and you cut off your fluids earlier, and then you've got a longer fasting window. So then when you weigh in, you're going to weigh a little lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. I obviously do encourage people to weigh themselves in the evening as well, so we know how much weight they've lost
overnight.
Yeah,
you can see like a 1 to 2 kilo drop or 1.5.
Yeah, for sure. And then with that, we can make daily or hourly manipulations through frequent contact. So we contact our clients every single day.
Yeah,
sometimes hourly in that last week. I don't do it all the time though. Like I want to reiterate, like it depends on the
circumstance.
Exactly. If this person's just chilling the whole way through, then I'm not going to contact them daily and freak them out anymore.
I've had a client where we literally every hour we were changing things up and just seeing where we were at,
what was needed to make weight,
and then they made weight but didn't tell me, and then
you're freaking out.
Enjoyed a meal at the pub, and I'm like, "Hello, is everything okay?
Are you alive?"
I was so stressed. So don't do that to your coach.
Okay, so if you are having to do a weight cut, know how to refuel and replenish.
Yeah. So say if you're doing water manipulation, it's a 24-hour weigh-in. Just drink fucking water, eat your salts in your meals, have your hydrate. Just know what you're doing and have everything you need on hand.
And if you're not having to do that big of a weight cut, you don't have to do that much of a refuel process either.
No. That 24 hours just eating normally, drinking normally, you'll be okay.
100%. Okay, so the very last thing that we have here, which I feel like you were a little bit guilty of in the past potentially, is overcompensating for a lack of training.
Oh, I can't. You got to put a leash on me. I have a step limit, but I always exceed it. But yes, if you're in your taper week, naturally you're like, I want to do more. I want to do more. But like the whole point of it is not doing more and saving it for the day.
Recovery, relax, chill the fuck out, put some movies on, Netflix and chill, that sort of shit.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's all we had here. And as I said, this is a an episode that is just the start of many. And I feel like the comp day, the comp week, all that sort of stuff are things that we can continue to talk about in future.
Yep.
So we just very quickly glossed over that sort of stuff. But if you enjoyed
this podcast,
give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know. Give us some feedback on
Boost our
this.
egos, please.
Tell us what else you would like us to talk about, because though we just sat here and we're like, what are we going to have our first episode on? And then we're just like 6 episodes in, we're like, holy shit, there's so many things that we could actually talk about here.
Yeah.
If you want any more updates on our personal lives or whatever's going on, or you have some horror stories, share that shit through.
Yep.
But thank you, Jordan, for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
I
having
hope I
me.
didn't embarrass you.
Definitely not. You did very well, everyone. Jordan did very well. Round of applause. Hold on.
Clap for me.
I actually have a sound of effect for this. Ready? Oh, wrong one.
That's the wrong one. I'm dancing. Thank
That's
you,
not it.
people.
There we go.
I'm bowing. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. And we'll speak to you all on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Nexus Unloaded. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned on today's podcast, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gym services. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at NexusPerformance.Aus for any updates on what we are currently doing. See you all in the next episode.